This is The Devil's Guide to D&D. Devil's Delegate here. The Devil's Eye was caught by the latest Unearthed Arcana. They're giving us some new races. Feywild. This interests me too, so let's take a moment and talk about it. The new Folk of the Feywild, Unearthed Arcana, introduces 4 new races to play. Interesting they're using the term races again instead of lineages. Those being Hobgoblin of the Feywild, Fairy, Owlfolk, and Rabbitfolk. All of them are following the Tasha's systems of gaining a +2 to one ability and a +1 to another ability you choose, but with the additional option of 3 +1s. What drew me to this was the Hobgoblin of the Feywild. Yes, we've had a Hobgoblin before from Volo's Guide to Monsters. This one's a little different. And I really like this because I've always been annoyed by the way that Dungeons & Dragons uses the term hobgoblin. Traditionally, hobgoblins have not been big goblins. That's not what the term meant. Folktale-wise, hobgoblins are household spirits, non-trooping fae who hang out in homes. They can be mischievous, but they can also be helpful, as long as you treat them well. These are the sorts of fae that fix things in your home, help you with the harvest. They're not necessarily good, but they're not evil, and they certainly aren't warlike. But D&D has messed that up forever, and now it looks like they're fixing it. Well, not entirely, as they still point toward them being big in armies, which is exactly what they wouldn't be. But we're trading off the violent combat nature of the hobgoblin as specified in the past for more of a group feeling. Now hobgoblins are simply good at working together, be that with each other, or, to go more with a folktale feeling, helping those that they're staying with, helping hearth and home. They have dark vision, always helpful, and they also get Fey ancestry, which is advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the charm condition. That theme starts to come through with Fey gift, which allows you to take the help action as a bonus action, number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. This is a race that you're going to want to use as a frontliner. He's going to want to be in on the action. The second part of Fey gift allows you, when you do take the help action, to add on one of 3 riders. Hospitality allows you to add temporary hit points to you and the person you helped. I'm seeing a lot of out-of-combat times when the hobgoblin is going to want to help someone open a jar of pickles just to give those temporary hit points. Passage gives you and the person you helped an increase to your walking speed, and Spite makes it so that the first time you or that target of your help action hits a creature, then that creature then has disadvantage on their next attack. Again, a reason why you're wanting to be in there in the front lines. Notable, these 3 riders are not connected to you doing the help action as a bonus action. The bonus action is an extra. This is any time you use the help action. And finally, we have Fortune from the Many. If you miss with an attack roll or fail an ability check or a saving throw, you can draw on the bonds of reciprocity to gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number of allies you can see within 30 feet of you, maxing at 5. And you can use this number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, so you're going to want to use your Hobgoblin of the Feywild when you've got 5 or 6 party members. A lot of this is the same as the old Hobgoblin, it just feels a little different. The old Hobgoblin also had dark vision, and it had a version of Fortune from the Many, usable once between short rests instead of proficiency bonus times per long rest. Instead of calling it Fortune from the Many, it was called Saving Face. Same effect, but in that case, instead of it being a matter of you working well with others and drawing power from being with others, it was pull yourself together and do better because you just can't stand showing weakness. For D&D, which is a game about people working together, I think the new tone works better. The trade between the old Hobgoblin and the new was with its martial training. The old one was proficient with 2 martial weapons and light armor, which makes it a good choice for a wizard or a sorcerer to get that light armor. Otherwise, not nearly as strong a feature as what the new Hobgoblin gets. So we traded out weapons and minor armor for our Fey gift, our ability to do the help action, our riders, along with the advantage on saving throws against charm. That's a good trade. Overall, I'm pretty excited about this new race. It's got a nice feel, and it is at least closer to the folklore than anything they've been doing with hobgoblins or goblins in general ever. The fairy comes with a table filled with characteristics. I rather like these. It suggests things like small wings or large ears or glittery mist around you. I really wish all of the races had these, and all the classes. Yes, generally you should come up with your own, but this gives you both some suggestions and makes it clear clear that you ought to be coming up with your own. Now, the fairy creature type is Fey, not humanoid. That may not have any practical effect in your game, though it might, as there are spells that affect humanoids and not Fey and not humanoid. And there's a cleric that can turn Fey. Size is small, which is kind of what you'd expect. Of course, the big ability here is flight, and the flight does not require your wings. You also get a couple spells, Druidcraft, which is the least exciting of the general beginner spells, and Fairy Fire, which is very good. I'm particularly fond of it for a warlock, and I kind of like the idea of a fairy warlock. And it specifically says that these spells can be used with your spell slots if you have any, and the casting ability is your choice of intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, so this race will fit in well with pretty much any of the casters. Finally, the fairy gets to squeeze through narrow spaces. Fewer features than the Hobgoblin of Feywild, but then this one has flight. Our final two races feel less Fey-like and more anime. They're the Owlfolk and the Rabbitfolk. Back to being humanoid, which is interesting. The Owlfolk is humanoid. And you can choose medium or small, which I also like. Again, variety. Has dark vision out to 90 feet, and it has magic sight, which is the ability to cast detect magic as a ritual. And this I don't like. They want to give the Owlfolk the ability to detect magic. Let them just cast detect magic all the time. If they didn't want to do that, then don't give it to them. But don't give it to them as a ritual. That's the opposite of a natural intrinsic ability. I'm trying to think of any in-game reason why they intrinsically know a ritual. Well, it's good to have detect magic, but I don't like the mechanics they've added on or the flavor that implies. The Owlfolk are also given nimble flight, which means they have a flying speed equal to your walking speed, and if they fall, they can make a save to stop falling and spread their wings and fly. And because apparently owls are quiet, you have proficiency in the stealth skill. With its spells, I tend to think that the fairy is the stronger of the two, but both are good, and both displace the Aarakocra at the top of the ladder for flying races. Which leaves us with Rabbitfolk. Again, you can choose if you're medium or small, and again, you're humanoid. Okay. You get to add your proficiency bonus to your initiative rolls, and you have proficiency in the perception skill. Not exciting, but good. Lucky Footwork lets you add a d4 to failed dexterity saves, which could make them successes. A fine ability, and I like that it's active. And we end up with Rabbit Hop. Once during each of your turns, when you walk at least 5 feet, you can hop, rolling a d12 and moving that many feet in a direction of your choice. This extra distance doesn't cost against your movement. Rolling a d12 for movement is going to be odd for the way most people play, since we go by groups of 5, so you roll a 7 or 3, I assume you're going to round. Making this generally just an unreliable addition of 5 feet to your movement. I would have preferred a bit more of a mechanical benefit. How about when you hop, no one can take opportunity attacks against you? Wouldn't overpower, and would make the Rabbitfolk really choice for rogues and monks, which is where I would put them in the first place. These are nice additions. I suspect there may be a little bit of change before we get them published in one of the major books. I don't have any inside information as to what book comes next after Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft in May, but looking at these, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's the Feywild book, and that's certainly something that the game could use. This is just a quick look at these because I am excited about the new Hobgoblin. That's it for now. Like and subscribe. Keep on listening. Keep on playing D&D.